That's great. Yesterday, I participated. First of all, Happy New Year. Let me say that. Happy New Year. Yesterday, I participated in a somatic movement workshop. And towards the end, we had an exercise that went as follows. We were split up in groups of 3. And one at a time, we were supposed to find a very simple movement that represented a prayer we had in our hearts. So it can be like this, for example. And then that person that had chosen the movement would repeat it over and over again. And then after a minute or so, the second person would join in and make the same movement in sync with the first person. And then again, after another minute or so, the third person would join in, and so the 3 of us would make the same movement. And I truly enjoyed the exercise, but of the 3 of us, I was the last one who initiated a movement. And I was amazed at the power of it. First of all, it was really great to express a prayer, not through words, but through movement. That was a whole different experience. But then when others started to join me, I could feel that the power of the prayer increased. And I actually was thinking about Home of Truth. I thought, yes, when we come together with the same intention, then the power increases of what we're focusing on. And I had such a somatic experience of that. And so, you know, when we all stand behind a purpose and move in unison, we're very powerful. And especially in these times, you know, so often, at least I do, I can go to like, oh, I feel so helpless with everything that is happening. But having had that experience is like, no, the more we bond together, the more we move together in unison, change can truly happen. You know, the Home of Truth is a community with purpose. You know, earlier Jeff read the purpose of human, you know, Home of Truth and its mission statement. But what I would like to read is its vision statement. And its vision statement is to elevate consciousness through love, healing, and spiritual wisdom. And you have to realize that when you hear talks here or you participate in events at the Home of Truth, that is the lens that we use to present things. That is how we look at things. You know, we come from wanting to elevate consciousness. And it's important to know, you know, Richard Rohr, he's a Franciscan friar, he talks about, like, whenever you listen to somebody or when you go to a church, whatever church it is, you know, there's a denomination and there are beliefs, but you also have to understand where the minister or the pastor is coming from, right? Because it's a particular lens we're speaking from. So at the Home of Truth is to elevate consciousness through love, healing, and spiritual wisdom. You can say the Home of Truth exists to elevate consciousness. You can say its prayer is to elevate consciousness. And when we do that together, we can feel it within our own being, we can feel it between us, and we can feel it all around us. So when we come together on Sunday and again, once again, we're uplifted and we go out in the world, we spread that light. We make a difference. We might not always know how or that it even happened, but we do. Now, Gabrielle Roth, she's the creator of the 5 Rhythms movement practice. She coined the phrase, treat and move your feet. You might think that it came from New Thought, but that's not true. It came from Gabrielle Roth. And she meant treat, get support, therapy, reflection, or conscious processing. And then move your feet, she meant like move your body to process what is going on for you. And in New Thought, we have adapted that, right? We say treat and move your feet. Say, do prayer, declare what you want, what you would like to see, but then take action. We need to follow it up by action. One time I was at Agape International in Los Angeles, and Ricky Byers was singing a song, and what she was singing was really like, yeah, God works through us. And I finally got it after many years. It's like, yeah, who else is going to do God's work? There is nobody out there who's going to do God's work. We're it. God is expressing as us and working through us and all around us. And it doesn't mean that we're on our own, but we need to do our bit. We need to take action. So we just started a new year, 2026. Now, first of all, I want to say something about calendars and the new year. As we probably all know, the modern calendar evolved over thousands of years. And it was really shaped by astronomy, agriculture, religion, and political power. And in the 16th century, we kind of ended up with the Gregorian calendar. And collectively, we decided that that was the calendar we were going to go by. That's how we measure time. Now, there are other calendars, of course, for religious and cultural purposes. There's the Hebrew calendar, there's the Chinese calendar, there's the Vedic calendar. But in mainstream society, we use the Gregorian calendar. Now, you have to realize that the new year, January 1st, is kind of an arbitrary date. You know, it was just picked as the new year. It could have been July 1st or March 20th. But January 1st was chosen. But the interesting thing is that although it's a kind of an arbitrary date, it has power. And it has power because we agreed on that that's the new year. Collectively, we agreed that that's the new year, and we created rituals around it. Now, we might not all have the same ritual around it, but they're rituals nevertheless. And so in New Thought, often the ritual is to let go of the previous year, to see what worked and what didn't work, maybe set goals for the new year, you know, declare what we want, right? So I want to step into that a little bit today, because I think it is actually a great practice to do. And it just happens to be the new year. And we take advantage of that power that is already there, of the movement that is already there in the universe. So we just, we just use that movement. And we're going to reflect on 2025 for a minute. That's why you have paper and pen. And then see how we move into 2026. But we're going to do it a little different, because often what happens is that we look at the past year and we look at what doesn't work. It's like, oh my God, I have gained weight, or I said like I would exercise, but I never did it, or, and then we set goals from there. And so we're often starting from the negative, which doesn't really work, because then the negative kind of stays there. And on some level, we're constantly affirming the negative. I better go exercise because last year I didn't do that, and now I gained weight. So that last year I didn't do that and gained weight, that stays there, and February comes along and we're not in the gym, right? So what I would like you to do, it's like you to open up your journal, or online, it's like get your journal, a piece of paper and a pen. And I would like you to look at what good habits served you in 2025. What good habits served you in 2025? What habits did you have in 2025 that you go like, that really served me? That really worked for me? Not like I should be doing that, or was a lot of effort. It doesn't mean that it can't be, that it can't be effort, but what worked for you? What truly worked for you? And while you're writing, I just want to say the habits don't have to be like big. It can be very simple. It's like, oh, I started to put my clothes out at night for the next day, and that made the morning so much easier. Habits don't have to be something that you started in 2025 either. It might be good habits you have had for years. Now, for a moment, I want you to imagine a clear glass of water. Just imagine a clear glass of water. And now imagine that you add a few drops of dark blue ink in that water. You know, maybe you can see in front of you, or you can imagine that the water immediately changes color. It's noticeable. At least for me, there's no way around it. I can be very focused on it. So the blue ink represents habits we don't like or that don't serve us for our higher purpose. So sometimes we're so focused on the habits that don't serve us. What I said earlier, you know, often resolutions come from that. This doesn't serve me, therefore I need to do that. But the interesting thing is with a glass of water, once you put the blue ink in, if you very gently just start pouring more clear water into the glass, steadily, over time, with patience, it dilutes the ink. And at a certain point, you basically don't see it. I can't say that it will ever be totally gone, but it's not so prominent anymore, and you stay focused on the clear water. Now, the clear water are your good habits. So what you can do, like for 2026, when you start to focus on your good habits and increase those, you clear the water. And often it's much more effective. What we focus on expands. So when we focus on our good habits, at a certain point, the bad habits don't have as much power. They're not as prominent. I want to give you an example. I have a tendency, when I get up early in the morning, I'm up like at 5 a.m. And my most productive time is still about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. maybe. And when I get home around 7, I'm often tired. And it also has been a day filled with decisions and work, and so also mentally I can feel tired. And the tendency I've had is to sit on the couch and maybe watch some YouTube. And every time I promise myself, it's like, oh, just 20 minutes. Which never really happens. So then I tend to fall asleep. So after a few hours, I wake up and I want to go to bed, and I'm super annoyed because I still have to brush my teeth and I still have to clean the cat litter box before I can go to bed. And by the time I go to bed, I'm awake. And then I'm awake for hours, and then the next day it repeats itself. So that in and of itself, doesn't really support me. So I made an agreement with myself that, okay, I can sit on the couch and watch YouTube. I know what's happening. But I need to brush my teeth first. I go and brush my teeth first, and I clean the litter box first so that when I wake up on the couch, that I just can scoot to my bed and, just fall asleep again. And then I notice something, that when I come home and I'm tired, but I brush my teeth first, and I clean the litter box first, I'm actually energized. And I'm settling within myself. And then there is space to choose something else. I have nothing against Netflix or YouTube. But, it wasn't really serving me to have that on every night and me falling asleep with it. But what I noticed is like when I changed my habit, when I just broke that chain of events and started by brushing my teeth, then maybe I would answer another email. Or maybe I would clean my place a little bit more. Or maybe I would make a phone call. Or, whatever needed to be done. But I noticed that I became more productive. And then, it would be 9 o'clock. I do go to bed early. Then it would be 9 o'clock, and I would just be happy to go to bed and go like, oh yeah, I already brushed my teeth. I don't even have to do that anymore. But just changing, focusing on something positive, shifted the whole sequence of events and actually really served me. So we just closed out 2025 by looking at our good habits, and we're opening up 2026. And 2026 here at the Home of Truth, the theme is co-creating with the divine. So I want to talk about co-creation first for a second. In his book Emergence, Derek Rydell actually uses the image of an acorn becoming an oak tree. And he says the acorn already has the pattern of the oak tree within it. So he says when we're creating something in our lives, it's not that we're creating something on the outside, that we have to make it up. What we have to realize is that Spirit is working through us. And I've thought about that a number of years ago. I go like, there is no difference between God's will and our will. That doesn't make sense. Because God is expressing, or the divine is expressing through us and as us. So if it is God's will, and I know the divine is always expressing for the greater and the better, when it's God's will, why would I fight it? Because God's will, what is expressing through me, is because the divine is desiring to express something good through me. So all I need to do is tune into that. I need to allow that to happen. So it's with the acorn. The acorn doesn't go like, well, let me figure out how to become an oak tree. No, the acorn allows that development to happen. So it responds to the stimuli that supports that development. So the acorn responds to the soil. The soil supports its development. It responds to water. It responds to sunlight. It responds to gravity. When we're clear within ourselves, and I really see that in my own life, and I can just rest. I love that in the song, by the way, that like, if I just can rest my mind and listen, then I know what to do next. Then I know what supports my development and the expression of the divine through me. So when we're co-creating with the divine, it's not like, oh, the divine wants one thing and we want another thing and now we're negotiating what is actually going to happen. No, we're supporting that divine expression to unfold in our lives. It says, co-creation is not about making something happen on our own. It is about becoming responsive to a movement that is already underway. We are not here to invent the oak tree. We're here to be the acorn that says yes to the conditions that allow it to grow. So, next exercise. What I would like you to write down with the thought of co-creation is like, what are you committed to? What is so important in your life that it always takes first place? I can tell you a short story so you have some context. It's like at one point my mother said, you know, you never stick with anything. And I really had to think about that. And what I realized is like, oh yeah, what was most important for me was to understand what life was about. And so I might not have been sticking with things as she thought I should, but my goal of wanting to understand what life was about always drove my actions, was always behind everything I did. And so ask yourself, what is so important to me that it always shows up for me, that it is always behind what I do? You know, justice is another big thing for me. So just be with that for a minute. And just know that this is not the end all. If you change your mind later, that's fine. It's like we're just, you know, starting the process. Okay, so finish your sentence. Now what I want you to do is look at the habits you wrote down, your good habits, and see which one supports your purpose. Which ones of the habits support your purpose, and how can you expand them? And again, it doesn't have to be a large expansion. Remember what I told you about brushing my teeth. It's just changing it at what time I would do it at night, change the whole sequence of events. So look at your habits and see what supports your purpose or what is important to you. And how can you expand it? What can you commit to? Again, don't make it too big. Set yourself up for success. Okay, and wrap that up for now. So it's the beginning of the new year. We have taken advantage of the energy that is already there to create something new. We have explored co-creation and what that means, really being in tune with the divine. You know, we have our practices to be in tune, you know, and we can commit to our good habits and expand on that. So we're off to a successful 2026. Welcome to the new year.